Welcome to Wilhelm Presents Frightening Tales, Season 5. I'm your host, Wilhelm. Tune in each week where I entertain my listeners with another dark and creepy tale of the paranormal, donated by authors from all over the world. If you're an author of some paranormal fiction and would like to share a story with my listeners, submit one at frighteningtales.com. And while you're there, tune in for more than 100 episodes of previous content. Today's episode is a double feature. The first tale is written by Sinner, Saint, Hellion, Helper. These words and many more describe the dark entity that is Gothic author, AI musician, filmmaker, voiceover artist, and poet, Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. You'll often find her drifting amongst gravestones in her favorite cemetery. If you're brave enough, you can visit her online at linktree/the Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. I'll leave a link so you can find it easily. Her tale today is called Despair. Legends are born of sorrow, and this one is no different. Woven into the fabric of time, a tale that resonates through the hushed whispers of the wind and the somber shadows that dance beneath the moonlight. Tales of hauntings spread like wildfire, and this macabre tale is no different, shared both with excitement and trembled speech by those who have glimpsed her sorrowful figure, her face a haunting mask of perpetual grief. If grief could congeal into being, this lore of old would rival even the most famous of legends, tales and campfire stories. However, like all stories that have stood the test of time, this legend has been added to. Some elements changed or forgotten completely, and others outrageously embellished upon until reality and fantasy swirled together in a mass of what actually was and what could have possibly been. There are certain elements that will not be altered. Certain facts that no one can deny. It is in that area, in between, that I, a descendant of one of the survivors of the tragedy you are about to hear, that spawned this tale, and I am pleased to share it with you. Let me add, just as a poignant fact, that ghost stories are not always told just to frighten or amuse. Sometimes there's purpose in keeping legends alive, and I believe this is one of those instances. It is said that her sorrow is not just a ghostly manifestation, but a reflection of the heartache that binds humanity together. A touching reminder that love, in all its forms, bears the weight of loss, and those who witness her ethereal sadness know that such legends endure not merely as stories, but as a living testament to the profound woe that can forge legends out of the remnants of love, given and lost. I hope you enjoy this story. It was yet again another chilly night, a phantom-like trepidation in the air as the sky roiled and the wind picked up speed. Soon the evening had turned from a simple passing of sun to moon to an angry, almost demanding declaration of hatred. As the tempest raged with an unrelenting ferocity, the winds lamented through the night, carrying with them the heart-rending cries of a ghostly woman standing resolutely on the widow's walk. a creaking wooden balcony that clung precariously to the edge of a weather-beaten lighthouse. This rotted and accursed perch was the only thing holding her above the raging waters beneath her. Yet, she glided back and forth, seemingly unconcerned, as if tempting the grim reaper to take her, relieving her from her unrelenting tears. Her ethereal form, shimmering faintly against the backdrop of the violent storm, appeared both sorrowful and terrifying, as if the very essence of her being was woven from the fabric of despair itself. With each crack of lightning that illuminated the darkened sky, her silhouette flickered into stark relief, and for a heartbeat, the tumultuous waves crashing against the rocky shore seemed too still, as though even nature itself paused to bear witness to her torment. Her sobs rose above the roar of the wind, a haunting melody of sorrow that echoed like a siren song, painting vivid scenes of grief and yearning across the heavens. Each flash illuminated her face, revealing traces of tears that glistened in the wavering light, a testament to the love lost and the unspeakable woe that kept her bound to this earthly plane. Eternally gazing out to sea, clinging to the hope of the return of a lost sailor, who now only visited her in anguished nightmares. The ocean, turbulent and wild, foamed in fury at her feet, as if to mirror the storm raging within her heart. And with every pulse of electricity from the sky, it seemed that she was both the hurricane and the calm, the wailing tempest and the deathly quiet that followed. In that fateful moment, surrounded by chaos and fury, the tragedy of her destiny unfurled like the wings of a phantom, creating a surreal tapestry of loss that entwined her spirit with the gales, a chilling reminder that those who wait in vain, suspended between hope and despair. She would never forget that day, the day that ended her life. The sun had just begun its descent, casting a golden hue across the waves that danced along the shore, when she received the news that would shatter her world. The love of her life had been lost at sea. His ship, the Dreadful Beauty, had been caught in a freak waterspout, a storm that few survivors spared the fate of a watery grave. Recounted came from nowhere, absolutely supernatural in nature. As if driven by the devil himself, the water became angry walls of rage, slapping the ship to and fro as an angry lover. Then came the surges of doom over the sides. It seemed as if no one was meant to survive, but Old Scratch's quota would not be met that day. She hesitantly took the rolled paper, tied in black ribbon, her heart thumping wildly in her fragile breast. With a solemn nod, the messenger walked away. She unwrapped the grim news with tremors of uncertainty. Yet, even as she read the words, they congealed into a heartbreaking reality she refused to accept. Days turned into nights, and the beach became her sanctuary and prison. The salty breeze carrying whispers of laughter from days long past, each grain of sand a reminder of their shared moments. Each crashing wave an echo of his voice. She wandered the shoreline, barefoot and hollow, tracing their footprints in the sand as if by some miracle she might summon him back. The first few days she clung to hope, her heart a delicate vessel waiting for a sign. But as weeks passed and the horizon remained unforgivingly empty, despair wrapped its cold fingers around her soul. The tide rolled in and out, indifferent to her sorrow, while seagulls cried out above, their calls a harsh reminder of her solitude. She felt the weight of her grief pressing down, an anchor that tethered her to a past that shimmered with lost potential and unfulfilled dreams. As lost as her love, it is ice-water mausoleum. Each sunset painted the sky with hues of longing. Each dawn brought her back to a sobering reality. With time, her heart, once vibrant and full of life, grew weary and cracked under the unbearable strain of loss. Eventually, she walked the shore until her body could no longer bear the pain, collapsing onto the sand where she had spent countless hours dreaming of reunion. In those final moments, as the tide embraced her, she felt a bitter, sweet sense of release. Yet her spirit lingered, unable to part from the place that had claimed all her joy. Now she roams the beach as a ghost, a whisper of desperation caught between the world of the living and the tranquility she sought in death. She would remain forever tied to the ebb and flow of the waves, eternally listening for the sound of his laughter carried on the wind, still clinging to the warmth of his touch, the caress of a hand that would never come again. Now, in the quaint coastal town of Eldemir, this tale, this legend of the morose, is told as if recounting the daily news. Most see her or have seen her, and they are forever changed by her heartache that to this day is palpable. All are familiar with the tale of the ghostly woman, now known as the Wailing Watcher, and her story has echoed through generations, weaving a tapestry of both fascination and fear. Clad in a tattered blue gown that billows like mist in the wind, she is often spotted on stormy nights. Standing solemnly on the balcony of the old Regent lighthouse, her silhouette stark against the violent shroud of an approaching tempest. Locals whisper of how her wild, anguish cries rise above the roaring sea and howling winds, a haunting lament that seems to resonate with the very heart of the storm itself, beckoning to lost souls in an otherworldly call. Fishermen, their boats swaying perilously in the churning waters, have claimed to glimpse her wandering along the moonlit shoreline, her bare feet leaving no trace on the wet sand as she glides gracefully through the chaos of crashing waves and turbulent winds. Yet for all her ethereal beauty and mournful presence, there is a sinister edge to her allure. Those brave enough or foolish enough to approach her have reported frightening details of her sudden disappearance, as if the very air around her thickens, drawing them into her realm, before she fades away like a forgotten dream. Many who have the story passed down to them by the old-timers' families, who were there on that fateful day, and the few survivors of the Devil's Due, as that freak storm has been come to be known through the ages, remember her name, Elzamon Monroe, eternally searching for her beloved, who vanished into the depths of the sea, never to return. This tragic narrative fuels the legend, instilling a sense of reverence and dread among the townfolk, who fear the day such an event could happen again. Though the younger people see the story as cool and welcome, even trying to lure Elzamon to the shore, camping out, leaving candles burning in the old lighthouse and making light of the poor specter's insurmountable grief. If truth be told, they await her return half in fear and half in anticipation. On stormy nights, when the winds howl louder and the sea rages with fury, the older generations of Eldamir gather in hushed tones, sharing stories of the ghostly figure that dances on the edge of reality, embodying both hope and despair, forever haunting the memories of those who dare to listen to her wail.
Today's second tale is written by Suzie Lockhart and Bruce Lockhart II. Suzie is an author, editor, an associate member of the Horror Writers Association. Her first all-female anthology, Killing It Softly, was a success and was featured in Publishers Weekly Review. The follow-up anthology of the same name took first place in the horror anthology category for a Solstice Award. Her most recent anthology, Dastardly Damsels, published by Crystal Lake, is also being met with praise. She has a story published in the Devil's Playground charity anthology and poetry in Sleeve of Hearts. All are available on Amazon. Bruce Lockhart II is her son, often Suzie's writing partner as well as an author in his own right. He solo-edited the anthology Memento Mori, as well as releasing a novella, Ghost in the Machine. He has many life changes on the horizon, but he continues to write, as he should. Their story today is called The Sköll and the Swine.
Elmer was circling the farmer's feet, acting like he didn't want the man to leave. "What's wrong, Elmer?" the farmer asked, scratching his pig behind the ear. Not like the pig could relay what the problem was. Even if he could talk, how would he describe the baffling odor caught up in the late summer breeze? The animal tried, albeit unsuccessfully, to plead with the farmer through his eyes. "Sorry, boy, I gotta wash up for dinner." Elmer cocked his head as he stood staring after his caretaker, until the burly man opened the screen door and entered the red brick house. There it was again. He lifted his snout in the air, trying to decipher just what exactly the odd smell was. Feeling nervous, was an unfamiliar sensation for the pig. His home here on the farm had always been a serene, comforting place with an abundance of food, mud, and affection. His ears perked up at the sound of a sickly howl in the distance. Elmer's siblings were busy splashing mud on each other, appearing not to have noticed. The ruddy-colored pig decided to join them and lumbered over to his favorite spot. They romped around in the cool mud bath, the delicious feeling of the silt calming Elmer's unease. Just as he began to relax, another howl pierced the night. This time, it was closer, and what had been a faint whiff now became a pungent stench. Peeking through the fence surrounding the pigs in their hut, Elmer saw a mangy-looking animal staggering out of the forest, heading in their direction. Elmer had never seen a wolf before, so he wasn't aware that it was a predatory animal, a sworn enemy. Still, long-ingrained instinct made him wary. He backed up, burrowing deep down in the mud as he tried to ignore the discomforting new sensations rising within him. Elmer tried to pretend the animal wasn't there. The pigs were startled when the disoriented wolf bumped into the wooden planks lining their pen. Milky eyes stared blankly at them as the beast growled, saliva seeping through its sharp teeth. Its gray fur was matted, and there were patches missing all over to reveal the discolored skin beneath. Natural curiosity was competing with the pigs' inner promptings as they stared back. Decidedly unconcerned, one of Elmer's brothers snorted defiantly at the wolf. The wolf snapped out of its befuddled state, and all at once the sickly beast charged the fence, snarling viciously at the prey just beyond its grasp. The wolf's diseased mind couldn't figure out how to get past the barrier, and it just kept banging into it, over and over again, until blood began seeping out of small gashes all over its snout. The three pigs watched in horrified fascination. The animal looked so pathetic, but Elmer couldn't seem to rid himself of the apprehension that had taken root deep down in his gut. He found himself so unsettled by the bizarre creature that he'd even lost his ever-present appetite. One last snarl and the predator turned away, swerving back and forth as it headed towards the woods. With puzzled expressions crossing their features, the pigs cautiously returned to their pit. They sank into the mud, breathing quietly as they continued sniffing the air. The unusual stench lingered, and the pigs weren't certain that the peculiar creature was truly gone. They couldn't understand why they were frightened of it. They just were. Lightning streaked through the sky, illuminating the trees that bordered the small farm, and the clap of thunder that followed was enough to set the already antsy pigs' hearts racing. 3 pairs of eyes darted to the spot where they'd last seen the wolf. A fierce cold front began blowing in from the north, tossing twigs, leaves, and other debris through the impending dusk. The sickening odor quickly dissipated into the twilight. The other pigs disengaged themselves from their mud bath and meandered past the feeding trough, heading deep into the huts to sleep. Elmer, however, was still wary. Something about that animal had deeply disturbed him. Unable to shake his unease, he continued to take comfort rolling around in the soft, damp ground. Coolness washed over his frayed nerves, and listening to the farmer's voice drifting out through an open window, he gradually began to settle down. Feeling drowsy, he made up his mind to join his brothers. When he entered the small dwelling, however, a sense of dread immediately greeted him. A scratching sound could be heard near the far wall, and before he knew what was happening, the wolf's bloody muzzle had punctured the thin skin of their hut. Opalescent eyes held a sinister glare against the absence of light, as a low-pitched rumble rose from deep within the animal's throat. The nearest pig squealed as he backed up into bales of hay resting in the center of the hut. The other two huddled near the front of the structure. For the first time in his life, Elmer was truly terrified. He was able to discern that the animal intended to do them harm. The vile beast was pawing at the dirt floor, making its way quickly inside, his powerful jaws snapping greedily, eager to sink them into one of the plump pigs now within reach. Elmer fled back outside, heading for the mud pit, his other sibling at his heels. Unable to resist the urge, he looked back just in time to see the other trapped pig trying to wriggle his ample form between two piles of hay. It would have been comical had it not been for the wolf bearing down on him. Sharp teeth tore open the terrified animal's throat. A geyser of blood sprayed everything nearby. Yellow hay was stained crimson as the wolf's assault continued. Elmer didn't know what to do or where to go. Horrible slurping and licking noises could be heard as the wolf continued dissecting Elmer's brother. It ripped out huge chunks of flesh, spilling the pig's innards all over the floor of the hut. Elmer whimpered uncontrollably, unable to divert his gaze from the horrific scene. Tears welled up in the sensitive animal's eyes. Then another thought struck him, like the bolts of lightning that had warned of the storm now raging outside. Would one pig be enough to satiate this sick, crazed animal? Elmer shuddered. He had to escape. Motioning to his remaining siblings to follow his lead, the two of them slid quietly past the feeding frenzy. The hole wasn't big enough for their large, round bodies. Elmer chewed and bit at the wall and then pounded what was left of the structure with his snout, until the opening was large enough to set them free. By now, the wolf had finished its meal and all the racket caught his attention. In mere seconds, the beast was following them outside. The two pigs split up. Elmer headed toward the farmer's brick house, and the other took off towards a pile of lumber stacked in one corner. Ouch! The wolf caught Elmer's tail between razor-sharp teeth, so the pig kicked up its hooves, flinging dirt into the sick animal's eerie eyes. An irritated howl escaped the beast, and Elmer was released from its jaws. After spinning around for several disoriented moments, it set off in the direction where the other pig had fled. The wind was howling as a torrential downpour exploded from the clouds, like water balloons bursting onto the ground. Lightning flashed, cutting through the darkened sky, which allowed Elmer to see the wolf prowling menacingly towards his remaining sibling.
its lips stretched wide apart in a hideous snarl. The round logs tumbled at a frantic pace when the wolf charged. All at once, the creature clamped down greedily on the pig's ear, ripping it off along with half his scalp. Grief overwhelmed Elmer as he huddled against the red farmhouse, shivering while pellets of rain pounded him. Helpless, he faced away from the grotesque sight before heading for the door of the farmer's house. Whimpering, he began slamming his body full force against the metal frame of the screen door, panic causing him to instinctually repeat the process. The wolf had finished its second meal and was now sniffing the ground, searching for Elmer. The thin sticks that were its legs carried the wolf's deformed body with surprising speed. The pig continued hitting into the door as the wolf found Elmer's scent. Again, Elmer threw his whole weight against the doorframe. The wolf was bearing down on him. He knew his end was near. The thought of the beast's fangs piercing his skin made him shiver, until something bumped into him, flinging his body suddenly off the steps. A loud blast rang through the night, and then the farmer was standing over him, a grim expression marring his face. "Two damn pigs!" he shouted, followed by a stream of curse words. The farmer patted Elmer. "It's all right now, boy." He headed towards where the wolf lay, dead and bleeding from a gunshot wound through its scalp. Farmer Mike kicked the dead creature onto its side. "Don't know what the damn hell kind of wolf that was." "Mike, does this pork smell strange to you?" the farmer's wife asked. "Abby, I lost 2 whole pigs last month due to that damn wolf. This one here was healthy. That's too much money already down the drain to be worried about some pork not smelling right." Abby shrugged. "The Mendelsons will be here by 4 tomorrow for their quarter of the hog. The Wrights and Hollysterns will be here for the other 2 quarters after 6. Farmer Mike shook his head. "I don't know how I'll recover these losses, Abby." "We'll make it. We have before." His wife put a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Come inside. I'll make us some bacon." Thank you, brave listeners, for joining me on another dark story. I urge all my listeners to go out and find more content by our weekly author, if you're not too timid. If you enjoyed today's story and you've tuned in on YouTube, please click the like button. And if you don't want to miss further stories, click the subscribe button. And if you are present today on Spotify and enjoyed the story, you're only more than welcome to leave a comment. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave the show a rating as you see fit. All these little things help the show. And wherever you listen, please do me a favor and share today's story, if you can. Then tune in next week for another frightening tale, if you're brave enough.